had a milestone moment in worship where we presented Bibles, kind of adult Bibles, the full-on text, but with some help for kids, to our 3rd and 4th graders. And one of the things that we said as a congregation was that we hoped our young people would feel that this is a place where they can bring their doubts and their questions about Scripture, about God, about their lives. I don't know about you, but some of us, maybe many of us, were brought up in traditions or churches where the doubts and questions that we inevitably had as children, because children and young people asked all the questions of all the things. Some of us were brought up in traditions or faiths where those questions and doubts were not welcome. They were seen as sinful or as lacking of a strong faith. There is a stream in the Christian tradition today where we are encouraged by some kind of authoritarian leaders and pastors to just believe and to just obey. Now, I was raised Presbyterian Church USA, and that wasn't the case. Our questions and doubts were welcome, I think, but I also don't know that we had kind of an invitation to engage the way that Jacob does with God. It was sort of just, well, here we are, very placid, and we come to church to do what everybody else does, to be good people, to do the right thing. But in terms of really wrestling with God, I mean, you could. It wasn't not allowed, but it wasn't necessarily part of the culture in the same way that other traditions bring their relationship with God. I wonder what you were brought up with and what you were taught in terms of wrestling and doubts. Inevitably in life, we do come up with doubts and questions about our faith, about God, about life, because we are human and there is so much that we don't know. And those hard times come in life, and that's when I've especially had many questions about God's presence and God's goodness and how prayer works, if at all, and what to do when things don't go our way. We wrestle with God. We may not tell other people. I've known sometimes people who feel like, unfortunately, because I wish this wasn't the case, that church is the place where you have to have it all together. And sometimes people who are wrestling just kind of disappear, which just breaks my heart. But this is the place where we should wrestle. We hear today of Jacob, and he's literally wrestling with God or an angel, a strange man. The Bible is ambiguous about who this person is, and it's not exactly clear that Jacob even knows in the beginning who this person is. Although by the end, we assume that Jacob thought it was God, and it must have been God. In Jacob's life at that time, he was wrestling with what he had done to Esau and what Esau might do to him. Sometimes we wrestle, too, with the things we've done and whether or not forgiveness is possible for us and for other people. So Jacob kind of carries all this wrestling with him, and Jacob is kind of this character, like I said, who has the Wile E. Coyote energy. He's kind of a wrestler in general. He makes things happen in his life that he wants to happen. He steals the birthright from his brother. He does some other stuff, and we didn't read it, but there's a prayer he has with God where he says, God, if you do all these things for me, if you follow through on the promise of your blessing, then I will follow you. He's negotiating with God even as he wrestles. And like I said, his name, Jacob, means heel, and it has in English too, that sense of being a heel. Jacob is a trickster, not as big or as strong as his brother, but obviously smart and cunning and willing to do whatever needs to be done. He's not perfect. And he wrestles with God. And I love this incident where he says, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Again, such a strange unfolding of events. Why is it that you would want a blessing from someone wrestling you? And wouldn't you want to let go at that point? Wouldn't you just be tired and say, okay, we're done here, let's move along? No, he struggles and he asks for a blessing, and the blessing is a changed name. The blessing is the name Israel, which means you have striven or wrestled or fought with God and have won. Now, I don't know that he actually won. It seems kind of more like a truce, and Jacob walks away injured with a limp, right, from his encounter with the divine mystery. What I hear in the story and what I remember when my own life gets difficult is that God is with us in our struggles and our wrestling. God does not let us go. God also doesn't defeat us, like I said, the children. We are not squashed like little bugs by God, but God is with us in it. Were any of you ever wrestlers? Professional wrestlers? I wish somebody was a professional wrestler. That would be funny. But if you think about the sport of wrestling, maybe not WWE, but high school wrestling, it's very intimate, and your bodies are close to each other, and it's a whole body contact sport. That's how God is in this moment with Jacob. That's how God is with us. God is in it with us to be with us. And God is there to transform us, to change us, to give us a new name. No matter what we were taught when we grew up, our struggles and our doubts, our faith is not just welcome, but blessed by God. People have said that the opposite of faith is not doubt, but certainty. You could also say indifference, maybe that's how I think of it, but doubt and questioning keeps us in contact with God, right? It's our little string. Oh, this one's really long. When we're struggling, we're still in touch, right? We are with God in the struggle, and God is with us. We are connected and held by the God who blesses our struggle, who walks with us through it. We are not alone in our struggle, and our struggles are welcome.